नित्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनादिदियन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. I seek your blessings so that I can speak following the mode of Guru Parambara. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So we are reading Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 41. 1:15:41. The Pandavas retire timely. Kindly repeat after me. Vacham juhav manasi
Vacham juhava manasi
tat prana itare chatam
tat prana itare chatam
mrityavapanam sotsargam
vrityavapanam satsargam
mrityavapanam sotsargam
vrityavapanam sotsargam
tam panchatve johavet
tam panchatve johave
tam panchatve johavet.
tam panchatve johave.
For those devotees who have just joined, we are reading Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 41. Vacham juhava manasi
Vacham juhava manasi
tat pranitare chatam
tat prana itare chatam
mrityavapanam sotsargam
vrityavapanam sotsargam
tam panchatve johavet.
tam panchatve yajohave.
Vacham juhava manasi
Vacham juhava manasi
tat prana itare chatam
tat prana itare chatam
mrityavapanam sotsargam
vrityavapanam sotsargam
tam panchatve johave.
tam panchatve yajohave.
One chanter.
Vacham juhava manasi
Vacham juhava manasi
tat prana itare chatam
tat prana itare chatam
vrityavapanam sotsargam
mrityavapanam sotsargam
tam panchatve yajohave.
tam panchatve johave. Word for word. Vacham,
Vacham
speeches.
speeches
Juhava,
juhava
relinquish.
relinquish
Manasi,
manasi
into the mind.
into the mind
Tat prane,
tat prane
mind into breathing.
mind into breathing
Itarecha,
itarecha
other senses also.
other senses also
Tam,
tam
into that.
into that
Mrityo,
mrityo
into death.
into death
Apanam,
apanam
breathing.
breathing
Sargam,
sargam
with all dedication.
with all dedication
Tam,
tam
that.
that
Panchatve,
panchatve
into the body made of 5 elements.
into the body made of 5 elements.
He, certainly. Ajohavit,
Ajohavit
amalgamated it.
amalgamated it.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind, then the mind into life, life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of the 5 elements, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life. Purport: Maharaj Yudhishthir, like his brother Arjun, began to concentrate and gradually became freed from all material bondage. First, he concentrated all the actions of the senses and amalgamated them into the mind. Or, in other words, he turned his mind toward the transcendental service of the Lord. He prayed that since all material activities are performed by the mind in terms of actions and reactions of the material senses. And since he was going back to Godhead, the mind would wind up its material activities and be turned towards the transcendental service to the Lord. There was no longer a need for material activities. Actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped, for they are the reflection of the eternal soul. But the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to the transcendental service of the Lord. The material color of the mind is changed when one washes it from contaminations of life breathing and thereby frees it from the contamination of repeated births and deaths and situates it in pure spiritual life. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is a production of the mind at the time of death. And if the mind is purified by practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord and is constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is no more chance of the mind's producing another material body after death. It will be freed from absorption in material contamination. The pure soul will be able to return home back to Godhead. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you Naveed Prabhu, thank you Satwik Prabhu, Rahul Prabhu for joining online. I'm so honored to have you all present in this class. I seek your blessing so that I can present in the mood of Guru Parampara and I can glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So this is a very important text. We are coming to the end of this chapter where Pandavas are retiring. As we heard in the last class from His Grace Suvarnabindu Prabhu, that Maharaj Yudhishthir gave up his royal dress and he accepted the saffron dress, which is sannyasi dress. This saffron colored cloth represents freedom from all kind of attractive garments in the world. So for freedom from wearing anything attractive or the taste for material enjoyment. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended to Raghunath Das Goswami, bhala na khaibe, bala na paibe. One should not wear something very fancy and one should not eat fancy food stuff or very palatable food stuff. This is the mode of renunciation. So Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with his brothers, is getting ready to leave this mortal coil and go back to home, back to Godhead. That's what we heard in the last class. And in this class, in this shloka, this text, we are seeing that how he is utilizing this process called Shat Chakra Yoga. This is also known as Kundalini Yoga in today's terms, because we have 6 air circulation points in our body. So people who know this yoga system, they can elevate their soul from the lower circulation points to the higher ones, and they can leave this body at their own will. That's called Shat Chakra Yoga. So there are 6, Shat means 6, Chakra means circulation points, air circulation points, and yoga is the process through which one can control one's consciousness, and one can raise one's life air from the lower energy circles to the higher ones. We will read a little bit about this from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains this Shat Chakra Yoga in 8th chapter. Also, it is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam at different points. So today we will try to understand what is this process. We will also understand how this process is not practical for this age, and what is a better process recommended by Krishna himself. And also Prabhupada gives more commentaries in the purports. We will also see two examples of devotees who have used Shat Chakra Yoga. One is the example of Mother Sati, when she emulated her own body. So she used this process to emulate, self-emulate, and leave her body. And the other is example of Maharaj Prithu. So he also utilized this process. So this process can give the yogi elevation to higher planets. It could be heavenly planets, or he can even go to the spiritual world. That is up to his meditation. What was the goal of his meditation? So he can go either to heavenly planets, or he can go and mix into the Brahma Jyoti, which is impersonal feature of the Supreme, or he can go back to the spiritual planets like Vaikunthas and stay there in the mode of service, servitude to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a bona fide process. That's why we see Maharaj Yudhishthira is using it. Mother Sati is using, Maharaj Prithu is using. However, it is not practical for this age. So let's see from Bhagavad Gita, because it's always nice to connect Bhagavatam to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic philosophy. And also it's nice to get more references from Srimad Bhagavatam to understand this, how this fits together. Does it sound like a plan? Hare Krishna. So Gita chapter 2, text 27, Krishna mentions Jatasya hi dhruvor mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya ja. One who has taken birth is sure to die. After death, one is sure to take birth again. So for an ordinary living being, this is a cycle of birth and death. It's continuous, 8,400,000 species. But a person who is a yogi, he wants to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, there is no possibility of one leaving this cycle. So for a person who has taken birth, he's sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. So where do we see this? How can we get out of this cycle? Krishna explained this in chapter 7, the knowledge of the absolute, towards the end. In the last 3 verses, Krishna is mentioning those people who are spiritually progressive, who understand that the real problem of life is to get out of this cycle: birth, death, old age, and disease. So how do they prepare themselves? So Krishna in 7:28, I'm reading the translations, chapter 7, text 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So that's why spiritual life means to control the senses. We follow these 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, including fish and eggs, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. Did I cover all 4? No gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating, including fish and eggs, no illicit sex. So these are the pillars of sinful life. Unless one is ended that sinful life, one cannot progress with full vigor. There's an example given when we try to ignite fire in wood. If it is dry wood, it can catch fire very easily. But if the wood is wet, it will be taking lots of time. According to the extent it is wet, it will take more times. So this sinful life is like wet or the moisture in the wood. The more sinful one person is, the more difficult it will be to progress in spiritual life. So that's why Krishna is recommending one who has ended one's sinful activities in the previous life and in this life, he can engage in my service with determination. Why does one do that? Text 29. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in devotion in me. Take refuge in me in devotional service. So such persons who are intelligent, who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death, take refuge in Krishna in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So they have come to the stage of Brahma Bhuta. There is Jiva Bhuta, one who is entangled with the conditional life, and Brahma Bhuta is one who has elevated his consciousness and he's no longer attracted to material activities. So such person is actually Brahman and they take refuge in Krishna. Refuge means shelter of Krishna. How? By devotional service, by performing service. So we have 9 kinds of service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. By hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna, they are the primary processes. And then there are other 7 processes also. Text 30. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So when this world comes into existence, Krishna creates the demigods who are the administrators of the universe in terms of water, light, air, food. So when we construct a city, we need all these basics. This is the basic necessities of life: water, air, clean water, food, sunlight. These are the basic things on which any city can run. We cannot do without these things. So these are arranged by Krishna when the material universe is created, and they are administrators for each one of these. Just like we have home minister, we have a minister who takes care of water or air. So Krishna creates these demigods who are empowered by Krishna. And then material manifestation, which is the ingredients of the nature: earth, water, fire, air, ether, subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. And of course, there is a Maya Devi, or superintendent of the matter. So there is an administrator for that also. And then all methods of sacrifice. So in a city or a country, we have this income tax. People are filing taxes. Sorry to bring it up. So that is a method of sacrifice. Sacrifice means giving something without and asking anything in return, giving up some portion of your fruits or your income just as a gratitude or in exchange of something. So we receive so many amenities from the government. Mm, So we are doing some sacrifice from our income. That's income tax. So similarly, what do we give to sun god? They are receiving sunlight. What are we receive? What are we giving back to the air god, to the water god? Nothing. So that is the method of sacrifice that is established by Krishna. So earlier it was fire sacrifices. In this age, it is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the most practical for this age because people are so much harassed. They are not able to take care of their basic necessities. So Krishna has made the process very simple. So this is Krishna gives at the end of 3 chapters. I'm sorry, at the end of 7 chapters. And in 8th chapter, so 8th chapter beginning, Arjuna asks these questions. Yeah, you are telling me, yes, if a person can understand you as the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods, of the methods of sacrifice, and they can know you even at the time of death and go back. But how does this work, So how can one practically do this? So Krishna gives this answer in chapter 8. He's in 8:5. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So that's the process of going back home, back to Godhead. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So it's a practice. It's a constant practice. One needs to practice throughout one's life. Then one can fix his mind on Krishna while leaving his body, his or her body. In text 9, Krishna gives the details. This is chapter 8, text 9, how to meditate on him. And then in text 10, he's explaining about Shat Chakra Yoga. This is this process which Maharaj Yudhishthira has taken. So anybody would like to read 8.10?
Translation: one who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and, by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. So this is the process which Maharaj Yudhishthira is following. So we can read a little the purport also. Let's read the purport. Can you use this?
In this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Agya Chakra. The practice of Shat Chakra Yoga involves meditation on the 6 chakras is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness at death, he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. This is explained in verse 14. The particular use of the word yoga bhalena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Shat Chakra Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life.
Yeah, so we can see here that this is the process given in Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna asks more details. How does one do this? So Krishna explains this process in 11 and 12 and 13. And in 14, he says that one does not have to do this process because by Bhakti Yoga, one can easily achieve. So Krishna gives us all the paths. He's in Bhagavad Gita is complete, is comprehensive. Yeah. So let's read 11. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. So one has to be in the renounced order of life. One has to practice celibacy. Um, one has to utter Om, and one has to have the knowledge of the Vedas. You know? So these are the requirements to practice Shat Chakra Yoga. What are more required? Then one can enter into Brahman. And text 12. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. So one has to close all the doors of the senses. We know we have this body is known as the body of nine gates. Yeah. We have two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, mouth, and then there are genitals. So there are nine holes. So one has to close all the doors of the senses through which we receive information from this world, withdrawing all the sense from sense objects. This is called pratyahar. Then fixing the mind on the heart. We close the eyes and fixing the mind on the heart, the region where the soul is, and fixing the prana on the top of the head, which is the life air. So our body has six kinds of air. So prana is part of this air circulation. Taking shelter of me completely. Text 13. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So by this process, one can reach the spiritual planets if one is thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And text 14, Krishna says, for one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So one is not required to perform Shat Chakra Yoga to go back home, back to Godhead. One has to remember Krishna without deviation. Then he is easy to obtain. Yeah. The practitioners of, I'm reading from Gita Subodhini. This is a book by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. It gives us more details on Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 8, text 14. Bhakti versus other paths. The practitioners of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, although have some bhakti added, have their own self-interests. But a pure bhakti yogi is selfless and desires nothing but Krishna's service. Thus, he is Nishkam. Therefore, he can attain Krishna very easily. Sulabha. So, this is the process of Shat Chakra Yoga, which is given in Bhagavad Gita. It's authorized. At the same time, Krishna gives us a better way, which is more practical for us. So we have few more minutes. We can read those two examples if you like of Mother Sati and Maharaj Prithu, how they use Shat Chakra Yoga and how Prabhupada explains in the purports the details about Shat Chakra Yoga, and he also gives this better process, which is about chanting Hare Krishna. That is more practical for us this age. Is this okay? So we can read those two purports. They are in Canto 4. It's my could you hand me my phone? Yeah. Okay. Actually, yeah, I think I wrote this. This is first is 425. This is Mother Sati. She is quitting her body using Shat Chakra Yoga. So 425. Anybody would like to read online? Anybody who is online, would you like to read? Okay. 424. 425.
First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel.
Then she raised her life air, mixed with intelligence, to the heart, and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, and from there to between her eyebrows. Purport. The yogic process is to control the air passing within the body in different places called Shat Chakra, the 6 circles of air circulation. The air is raised from the abdomen to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat, and from the throat to between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebellum. This is the sum and substance of practicing yoga. Before practicing the real yoga system, one has to practice the sitting postures because this helps in the breathing exercises, which control the airs going upwards and downwards. This is a great technique which one has to practice to attain the highest perfectional stage of yoga. But such practice is not meant for this age. No one in this age can attain the perfectional stage of such yoga, but people indulge in practicing sitting postures, which is more or less a gymnastic process. By such bodily gymnastics, one may develop good circulation and may therefore keep one's body fit. But if one simply restricts oneself with that gymnastic process, one cannot attain the highest perfectional stage. The yoga process, as described in Keshava Shruti, describes how one can control this living force according to his desire and transmigrate from one body to another or from one place to another. In other words, yoga practice is not meant to keep the body fit. Any transcendental process of spiritual realization automatically helps one to keep the body fit, for it is the spirit soul that keeps the body always fresh. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the body, the material body immediately begins to decompose. Any spiritual process keeps the body fit without separate endeavor. But if one takes it that the ultimate aim of yoga is to maintain the body, then he is mistaken. The real perfection of yoga is elevation of the soul to a higher position or the liberation of the soul from material entanglement. Some yogis try to elevate the soul to higher planetary systems, where the standard of life is different from that of this planet and where the material comforts, lifespan, and other facilities for self-realization are greater. And some yogis endeavor to elevate the soul to others to the spiritual world, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. The Bhakti Yoga process directly elevates the soul to the spiritual planets, where life is eternally blissful and full of knowledge. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is considered to be the greatest of all yoga systems.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this is the example of Mother Sati, who self-humiliated her body when she heard insulting words, or because she was neglected by her father, Daksha, who also insulted her, Lord Shiva. So she could not take it. And that's true. A wife should not be taking it as the insult of her husband. So she self-emulated. And we will hear the others example of Maharaj Prithu. This is Canto 4 text, Canto 4 chapter 23 text 14. 4:23:14. Anybody online, would you like to read now? Or Avnish Prabhu can read? Okay, go ahead. 4:23:14.
Translation: When Maharaj Prithu practiced a particular yogic sitting posture, he blocked the door of his anus with his ankles, pressed his right and left calves, and gradually raised his life air upwards, passing it on to the circle of his navel, up to his heart and throat, and finally pushed it upward to the central position between his two eyebrows. The sitting posture described herein is called Muktasana. In the yoga process, after following the strict regulative principles controlling sleeping, eating, and mating, one is allowed to practice the different sitting postures. The ultimate aim of yoga is to enable one to give up this body according to his own free will. One who has attained this ultimate summit of yoga practice can live in the body as long as he likes, or as long as he is not completely perfect. Leave the body to go anywhere within or outside the universe. Some yogis leave their bodies to go to the higher planetary systems and enjoy the material facilities therein. However, intelligent yogis do not wish to waste their time within this material world at all. They do not care for the material facilities in higher planetary systems, but are interested in going directly to the spiritual sky, back home, back to Godhead. From the description in this verse, it appears that Maharaj Prithu had no desire to promote himself to the higher planetary systems. He wanted to return home immediately back to Godhead. Although Maharaj Prithu stopped all practice of mystic yoga after realizing Krishna consciousness, he took advantage of his previous practice and immediately placed himself on the Brahmabhuta platform in order to accelerate his return to Godhead. The aim of this particular system of asana, known as the sitting posture for liberation or muktasana, is to attain success in Kundalini Chakra and gradually raise the light from the Muladhara Chakra to the Swadhisthana Chakra, then to the Manipura Chakra, the Anahata Chakra, the Vishuddha Chakra, and finally to the Agya Chakra. When the yogi reaches the Agya Chakra between the two eyebrows, he is able to penetrate the Brahmarandra, or the hole in his skull, and go to any planet he desires, up to the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha, or Krishnalok. The conclusion is that one has to come to the Brahmabhuta stage for going back to Godhead. However, those who are in Krishna consciousness or who are practicing Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam, can return to Godhead without even practicing the Muktasana process. The purpose of Muktasana practice is to come to the Brahmabhuta stage, for without being on the Brahmabhuta stage, one cannot be promoted to the spiritual sky. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam Shriyo Vyavicharina Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sargunam Samapityaitan Brahma Bhumyaya Kalpate. The Bhakti Yogi practicing Bhakti Yoga is always situated on the Brahmabhuta stage, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. If a devotee is able to continue on the Brahmabhuta platform, he enters the spiritual sky automatically after death and returns to Godhead. Consequently, a devotee need not feel sorry for not having practiced the Kundalini Chakra or not penetrating the 6 chakras one after another. As far as Maharaj Prithu was concerned, he had already practiced this process, and since he did not want to wait for the time when his death would occur naturally, he took advantage of the Shat Chakra penetration process, and thus gave up the body according to his own free will and immediately entered the spiritual sky. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for reading. So, yeah, to conclude, Krishna in chapter 8, last text, 828, Krishna says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So we are not missing out on anything. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm open for any corrections, questions, or reflections. We have few minutes. Anybody online or in person?
I just want to share one thing. There are 5 life types, but 6 chakras.
5 so thank you.
So one thing I heard in Hari Prabhu's class that when he was talking about Tyahar in the NOD series, he talks about us having an illusion of choice. Like what Prabhupada mentioned today and what he also mentioned too. So for the Kundalini Chakra, the first step to start the process is sannyas. Right? So only if someone tries to practice without sannyas, it's not going to work out. Similarly, it's a similar thing for the Ashtanga Yoga practice as well. You need to start. The starting point is sannyas. And only after that will they, whatever level they reach, they will achieve the fruit for that level. But Bhakti Yoga is the only path which does not have that as the requirement, because it accommodates everybody where they are and takes them where they need to go. So it is an illusion of choice. People think, oh, if I just give my life to this, I will attain it. So Prabhupada clearly states it is not for this age. So no matter what you try, you're not going to get there. Even if you're one of the 1 in a billion who gets there, then you may not even get to the spiritual planets. You might end up in the Brahmajyoti. So it turns out to be an illusion of choice. In the end, there's only one choice, but there are many options. Like quiz show, only one correct answer.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. It's very nice. Thank you for that detail. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for those. Very nice. I was reflecting on my life before Krishna consciousness. This is actually so misunderstood. This yoga, like you're saying, Prabhu, we don't have a choice. I used to be part of different programs where they would say, we'll do Kundalini awakening meditation, and it's very popular. This Kundalini awakening is very popular, and you pay a good amount of money to attend these courses, and they will, advertise like this process can be done, but nobody ever talks about the prerequisites. When you take a course in college, you have to get prerequisites, otherwise they deny it. You don't even get an option to take the course. Here nobody talks about the prerequisites, and everybody, like I remember in one of the course I was asking this question: how do you lock the anal passage? Like how does that locking happen? Everybody just started laughing, and it's because they didn't know. The teacher I asked the question to, she couldn't even explain. And not to say that she isn't, she probably has some learning in this process, and she might have had some realizations in this path. But even then, like, the basic questions cannot be answered. How do I do this? Even that, it's all a facade of, we are going to sit in this room, we're all going to do this unique meditation process that is described in some Eastern text, and we're all going to attain liberation. It's a total facade, and it's just to, make you think that you can get free without actually doing something that is austere. Like, this is true austerity, giving up the giving up these sinful activities and focusing oneself on that is the true austerity, not this pretending to do some yoga process and not actually doing it right, but trying to believe that that's the right thing. So I was just, people are very misguided, and even we see now, like, not even, at least in that process, you're doing some yogic process. But you see, we have so many yoga teachers that are just teaching exercise. They don't even know what yoga means. Yoga means connection, link to God. They don't know. They think it means linked to good health, good exercise, looking good. So it's like, people are teaching without even knowing. That is Kali Yuga. That the teachers are completely, they don't know what they're talking about. And it's only after coming to Krishna consciousness that it's so blatantly obvious how bad it is. And I just wish that, somehow we can show this to others and they can also take to this path, because it's so hard to see other people get drawn to these things. So it's
Beautiful realizations, practical. Thank you for sharing. So I never attended one of those classes, Kundalini Chakras. Thankfully.
Good. You didn't waste your time.
But I hear this all the time when we go for book distribution.
Krishna.
I didn't know that this is what they teach. Prabhupada says these teachers are not teachers, they are cheaters.
Or
It's
even
almost the same letters. They are not teaching, they're cheating.
or some people, some cheater is there, and but they believe so much. They're actually innocent people. But so much they've gotten, that is the problem. A lot of innocent people are.
Yeah, I remember the story of His Holiness Amal Bhakt Swami. He was a big sannyasi and he had a big following. He was very young and he was a teacher, yoga teacher, and he would teach different kind of asanas. After reading Srila Prabhupada books, he gave it up. He took shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And that's History of His Holiness Amal Bhakt Swami. So similarly, we need to give this to all the yogis
Yeah.
and make them into devotees.
Yes. Yogi into devotee.
Devotees, exactly. That's a real yogi actually. Otherwise, that yoga is false yoga. And thank you, Vishal Guru, for mentioning the prerequisites.
I can just read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is from Hatha Yoga Pradipika of Swatmarana. This is a qualification for Hatha Yoga. So Hatha Yoga, the Hatha Yogi desires of success must keep his yoga practice extremely secret. Here they have studios. Everywhere online. It's available. Yoga is potent when kept secret and ineffective when revealed injudiciously. The yogi should live completely secluded in a small mutt, situated in a place free from rocks, water, and fire to the extent of a bow's length. The yogi should stay in a virtuous, well-ruled kingdom which is prosperous and free from disturbances. This is the requirement, eligibility to start. Not even your end. None of these are.
It is nice if we have these details proof so we can mention why this is not practical. When Prabhupada says it's not practical, many times I used to think, what does it mean? Why it is not practical? But this is nice to have these details so that we understand why it is not practical for this age. Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Shat Chakra Yoga, these are the prerequisites, and this is how it is impractical for this age.
For Jnana Yoga is it's on Jivan Mukta way. I will now speak of two types of sannyas, Vividisha sannyas and Vidvat sannyas. The former leads to ultimate liberation and the latter leads to Jivan Mukti, liberation even in this form. So the eligibility for beginning Jnana Yoga is sannyas. So like that, eligibility for Bhakti Yoga is in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is heard that all humans are eligible for Bhakti, just as all humans are eligible from Magasnana. This is specified by Vasishtha in the Puranas. And we have, it's not limited only to humans, it's for animals, it's for plants, it's for everybody.
Wow.
So that how can plants do it?
Amazing. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining. We'll stop here. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha Kripaturupesha, Kripa Sindhu Japati Chanam Srila ki jai. Jai. Dharmesh Prabhu ki jai, Adinath Krishna Prabhu ki jai, Satvik Prabhu ki jai, Vishal Prabhu ki jai. Thank you, dear devotees. We'll continue tomorrow. Vishal Prabhu will give class